Good morning, all. Welcome back to another episode of Shared Light with Dusty and JR. I am obviously JR.
And I'm Dusty.
I feel like we haven't done this in a minute.
Yeah.
For context, we are recording these
Ahead of
time. So some of the stuff we talk about may be a little bit late, but we did run into a couple weeks there where it got really hectic.
Yeah. We just didn't have time.
So we celebrated our 20th anniversary.
20 years.
Had a celebration of sorts. Not of sorts. I mean, we had a celebration. Had people over, rented out a venue, fed everybody, had a good time. Some of Dusty's friends came from out of town. Overall, it was a fun time.
It was good.
Surprisingly, we didn't murder each other.
No.
Maybe not surprisingly, but...
I'm not surprised, are you?
Well, you know, those situations do tend to lead to high stress.
They can, yeah.
Because there's a lot going on. You know, you've got a million things you're trying to get done. I've got a million things I'm trying to get done. I'm working, school,
Yeah.
kids, getting the house ready. I mean, it was like a whole...
Yeah, I think the only stressful part for me was the day of trying to get, I don't remember. I had our two girls, but then we also had some extras. So I think I had, 4 girls to get ready, plus myself.
Yeah.
So it was a little hectic for me.
But again, I mean, I think we handled it in stride. We didn't have a whole lot of conflict. Which again, I think that's a little bit surprising. Like I say, it was pretty stressful, I feel like. I just feel like we just had zero time to do anything that we wanted to do. Our side venture, our business, our podcast, everything kind of went on hold for a week or two. But we're back. Not that you guys will see any of that lag, because we are still consistently far enough ahead that we've got some content for you. But with all of that, it has also provided some time to think about what kind of topics we could discuss on this channel, we could discuss on this podcast that will hold some value for our listeners. As we have stated previously, we are not therapists by any means.
No.
We are just two individuals who have been together an extremely long time and have been in the trenches through it all, which provides a lot of insight on marriage in general and how to navigate marriage.
Yeah, I was going to say, and we've been lucky enough to want to and be able to figure that out together.
Right.
Navigate it, figure it out to what works for us.
Right. Which segues into today's topic. Today's topic is conflict, which again, I'm a bit surprised, just given, like, looking back, we were both pretty stressed out. I'm surprised we didn't just melt down and go at each other at least once.
We did it.
But through conflict, how you repair. So it's that two ends of the spectrum. You're going to have conflict, you're going to have some repair. And we've talked about it previously. Conflict in any relationship is healthy. It's not realistic to think that you're always going to agree with somebody.
Yeah.
So
it's inevitable. I mean, it's going to happen.
It is.
And I don't think the conflict is the major issue, or it shouldn't be. It's mostly about the repair, I think.
Right.
For us, it was.
Right. And what I would venture to say is, in most circumstances, not all, but in a lot of the repetitive arguments that couples have, I mean, even some of the ones we've had, the recurring arguments are not really what's happening on the surface. It's a lot of underlying other issues that aren't resolved. And we've talked about it, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about communication,
Yes.
being
unspoken expectations.
Unspoken expectations.
It's a big one, I think, that could lead to conflict.
But, you know, a lot of conflict really is usually about an unmet need or a difference in emotional meaning. So something may mean something different to you than it does to me. So it ends up being a situation where, as we've talked about previously, if you start having an argument, and it's not even that we've had arguments about it, but you know, we talked about taking out the trash. Taking out the trash is a big one here in this house, right? Because I totally have, it's not really. It's so low on my priority list that it does get missed quite a bit. But in situations where you may be feeling overwhelmed or needing help or that I'm not contributing to my part of whatever social contract we have going on here at home.
Yeah, the home duties.
Right. It could cause an argument.
It could. Yeah.
And it's really not about the trash. It's that you feel like you need help, like you're doing everything on your own.
On my own. Yeah.
So, and there's a lot. There's a lot of examples like that, having an argument about how, I don't listen. I claim that I'm deaf.
You are a little bit, but I think you also have selective hearing. You hear the things that you are interested in. But if I'm talking about something that you have zero interest in, you do not remember that conversation.
But it can lead to you feeling like it's unimportant.
Right.
Yeah. Which, again, you and I have come a long way, and we're able to talk through those things, and you have situations where it's like you're not even, you'll call me out on it, and like you're not even listening to me. And I got to snap back in like, well, yeah, like it's not that I don't care about it, it's just like you're handling it, so I don't need to worry about it.
Right.
So, but it really does, and it really is about, especially when you're having those disagreements and when you're having that conflict repetitively. Yeah. Where it's a constant situation where it's like, well, you never help me around the house. Well, you never listen to what I have to say. Well, it's not even that situation. It's a deeper underlying situation.
You're not being seen. It feels like you're not being seen.
Right.
You're not being heard. You're not important enough to see me or my needs or.
Right. Which ties back a little bit into the unspoken expectations, because you have an expectation of your partner that they should know this is important to you.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just, again, it's that difference of perspective where it could very much well be, well, I don't know why you're upset, because it doesn't matter to me that much.
Yeah. And I think it's a hard one because there's things that I feel like are so important to me and to us and to our family or our life, you may not. And so if there's things that's like you're not paying attention to or you're not listening when I'm talking about them, like, yeah, that can make me feel like this is a big deal to me, and you're just like, huh, what? I don't remember that conversation. Or, oh yeah, I remember we talked about it, but it wasn't a big deal. That can make you feel like, okay, well, I guess how I feel about a situation doesn't really matter.
And it's not that, but it's definitely a difference in mindset and perspective. Yeah. Because some of the things that I place a lot of importance on, vice versa, like you are like, well, that doesn't even matter, right? So it really goes back to being able to communicate in a manner that you're able to understand the other person's needs. So when conflict arises, though, and I'm not going to say that we have completely mastered it 100%, but we've come a long way in when we do have conflict and when we do argue or do have disagreements or whatever you may call it. Again, we have discussed where we have some baseline things that are off the table. We're not talking about. It is very much about framing it in a way that, how do we deal with the problem? Not how do I make you see my point and you make me see, right? So when you talk about conflict, when you talk about an argument, there really needs to be a way to, fight fair.
Yes.
The first thing that happens when emotions start running high is you want to make that person feel the way you feel.
Yes. I'm hurt, so I want to make you feel that hurt.
Right. So, you verbally lash out, you say things in the moment that are not constructive in any way towards a resolution to whatever the situation is. In some situations, people say things that they regret later, which I don't feel like we've ever gotten to that point.
I don't think we have. But it does happen, especially when you're in the moment and you're angry, you're upset about something and you start attacking their character. Instead of, this is how you behaved and that's what affected me, it's like, you're this kind of a person, or you're awful, you're conniving, you're whatever. So I think that's something that you need to take into consideration. You don't want to call your partner this or that and be mean, but you're also in the moment and hurting. So you have to kind of take a step back, I think, and realize, like, instead, let's talk about your behavior and how it affected me or made me feel.
Well, because at the end of the day, the goal is that you're going to remain together once this conflict is done.
Right.
If that is the main goal.
Right.
If you have already decided that that is not the main goal, then you probably shouldn't even be in the middle of this conflict anyway, right?
Right.
But conflict brings about change and brings about new ideas, new ways to see situations so that you can find an active resolution, right? So it's about staying connected even though you are hurting.
Even though you are frustrated.
Right, because
upset.
it's really easy to, I think you say it, mouth vomit, right? So it's really easy to word vomit whatever you're feeling in the moment.
Right.
But what are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to accomplish
Hurting that person.
resolution, or are
Yeah.
you trying to make them hurt, right? Or make them mad, or make them, whatever you're feeling.
Right.
Are you just trying to put that on the other person so they're feeling the same way?
Right.
But,
And you may want to in the moment. Like, I want you to feel what I'm feeling, but the ultimate goal is I just want you to hear me and understand how I'm feeling or how your actions affected me. That's the ultimate goal.
Another big one is it's also real easy when you're in your emotions to start bringing up other situations that have made you feel this way.
Old stuff.
The reality of that is if you have not already dealt with that, that needs to be dealt with in a different form.
Yeah.
Because every argument needs to be individualized. Every conflict needs to be about the topic that brought up this topic.
It deserves its own attention, I think.
Right. So now I will say that it is okay to bring up old things if it is, like we say, if there's an underlying issue. Well, in this situation, you did this, and you're doing this similar thing, and this is how it makes me feel.
Right.
But that is very different than, well, you're this kind of person because this is the kind of stuff that you do, and look at all these examples that I have. Right.
Or if it's something that you've already had a conflict about previously and you've resolved, but they're doing it again, or then, bring it up and be like, we've talked about this. You understood that this is how I felt.
But it's not a situation where you're bringing it up to try and lend credibility to an argument.
Yeah.
So I hope you guys can see the distinct difference there. It's in one situation, it's healthy if it is lending credibility to a bigger underlying issue. It is not okay if you're just using it to attack the other person.
Yeah. If it serves a purpose for your end goal.
Right. Which that's the other side of this, right? When you are upset, when you do have something that is bothering you, before you even engage, and I know that it's hard to think that way, especially when your emotions take over, but you should understand, like, what is the end result of me pursuing this?
Right.
Like, if I am going to come at you about something that's bothering me, like, what am I expecting to happen?
What do I need out of this conversation?
Right. So it's not, and again, conflict is healthy in that aspect. You're going to have emotions when you're dealing with people. The human being is a emotional creature that has a lot of underlying systems in its body to react to certain things, certain ways, right? And everything, in essence, is to protect and to ensure that your basic needs are met. So that will create a lot of emotion in a lot of situations where at an underlying level, you have to have some of that to continue to advance forward. So being able to try to approach it from at least a standpoint of what is the desired outcome, like what do I envision from this? At least if you have a general idea of where you think it should go. Now, it may not go there, but at least if you go in it with the best intention of, well, this is what I'm wanting out of this conversation, it will have a tendency to keep you in a mindset that is not attacking.
Yeah, because you're in a mindset more of, I need this resolved and this is what I need from it, or I need to get my feelings out to you about how I feel about this certain situation, or how we can improve it, or not necessarily, I want you to feel bad and I want to hurt your feelings.
Well, I mean, if that's where you think it's headed, it's okay to, I mean, we've talked about it. Like, we'll take breaks before, I mean, if your underlying goal is we need this resolved, but we need to stay together, so we need to resolve it, sometimes you got to walk away from it because you don't want it to escalate to a point where, okay, now we are just going back and forth.
We've had that happen.
We have. Because through conflict, through misunderstanding, through whatever situations may arise, and we've talked about this before too, it is not about winning.
Yeah, or being right.
Right. It is about coming to an understanding.
Yeah.
And being okay with understanding that your views and perspectives may not always align.
Yeah.
So, and that's hard. That's a hard one
Yeah.
because that one will not help you feel any better, which is the question, right? Is like, how do you repair this conflict even when you're still hurting? Like when when you've had it out and you've had this argument and your feelings are hurt.
Yeah, because I feel like for me, it takes me a lot longer to get to that point than for you. Because you're like, okay, we talked about it. We're like, we came to an understanding. We're good. Move on. And I'm still in the emotions of all of it. And I just have to think on it and I feel it and a lot more, I think, than you do. So you're ready to move on, repair, be done with it. We're good. And I'm like, but I need a process. Not even so much sometimes that I'm still like, I'm still hurt or whatever. It's just like, I need to process all of it. Even though I know, like, we have an understanding, we have it resolved or whatever, there's still a lot of emotions, I guess, for me attached to it. Just even overall that we even had an argument or a conflict about it.
But that's okay, right? I mean, that's and that's not, I don't think that's just you. I mean, because there's situations that we get into where, I mean, my feelings are hurt. And even though I tell you, hey, we're good, it's fine, I'm still processing. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to make you feel any worse that my feelings are hurt, right? So, right. But you are going to have to go through that. Like you have to process that out. You have to deal with those emotions. You can't just shelve it. That is the embodiment of repair. I mean, think about when we work out. Your body is hurting the worst when it's repairing itself.
Yeah.
So
the days after you work out.
Right. So repair is not always going to mean that you're 100% feeling better.
Yeah. And the same for your arguments, your conflict. It may not be fully healed and the situation may not be fully resolved, but if you can come to an understanding and communicate those things to each other, that's another step forward towards your repair and your reconnection.
Yeah. And I mean, you want to, and we harp on it. Like, you want to communicate how you're feeling. I am terrible about communicating how I feel, but we have figured out over the past year and a half or so that we can still communicate, and I can still communicate, maybe not to the extent that I'm telling you, well, XYZ hurt me or whatever, but at least we communicate to a point where you understand, okay, well, he's still hurting, or he's still this, or this is what is on his mind or whatever. And you're going to run into situations where conflict and things happen throughout your relationship. I mean, we've been through them ourselves, right? Like where the end result and the end goal is that we are going to get through this, but it is going to take you longer to process. Because as you mentioned, for you, it takes a lot longer to get through some of those things. But even in those situations, it's not, well, I don't want to talk about that, but like, I'm still here, or I'm still.
Yeah. I mean, I still want to connect and I still want to resolve, and I may not want to sit down and figure it out right this second.
Right.
But because I am more emotionally attached to those type of things, I think. And sometimes I just don't want to talk about it, even though I know we need to, but it's like, I need a little time, or, you know.
And that is one thing to take away from this is there is no one size fits all answer to the way you're going to deal with conflict and the way you're going to deal with the situations that come up in your relationship. But time, understanding, and communication do wonders for any situation that you're dealing with. Because if you can actively communicate during a conflict with an understanding that you are both wanting the same thing, that's why we have come to a point where now we've reframed most of our conflicts, and it's us versus whatever problem we're dealing with.
Because we both want the same result.
Right.
We just have two different ways of approaching it and dealing with it.
And it'll take some time in any marriage, in any relationship, in any friendship even, to figure that out. Because I mean, think about some of your closest friends. There are times when you guys are going to argue, and then you're not going to talk for years or months or whatever.
Right.
And then sometimes when you do start talking again, you talk about it, and sometimes it's like, well, it doesn't even matter now.
Yeah, water under the bridge.
So
I think that happens a lot in relationships, especially. Well, maybe for us. because I think we find that those things in the moment are so important to us, and then down the road it's like, well, yeah, it's not really that important. So there's no need to really sit down and hash it out anymore.
But at least we've done the work in the moment to discuss some of that.
Yeah. And still stay connected.
Right.
That's the most important part.
And it helps with really learning where you and your partner stand on situations. Mm-hmm. Again, I mean, conflict can be healthy. It can drive innovation, it can drive adaptability. In teams especially, which you and I consider a team. Yeah. That conflict does help in the overall building of the relationship, which, I mean, is team dynamics, and that's a whole nother thing. But you have to be able to engage in it, but you also have to be able to understand that you're not always right. And it's not about being right or wrong, but you do need to acknowledge, if I hurt your feelings, even if I don't feel like I did anything wrong, it's still good to apologize that I hurt your feelings. I'm sorry that you feel however way you're feeling because of what I did. But
I think that's just respecting each other.
Right.
Like, I respect how you feel, even though if I do something and I'm like, well, I feel like that shouldn't even hurt your feelings, but it did. I mean, I respect you enough to be like, oh, but it's not about me. Like, that's how he received it, and he got his feelings hurt. Right. Like, I can still acknowledge it, and I can apologize for that. Even though if I feel like that should have not been something that hurt his feelings, well, that's not really for me to judge.
Well, and it's not
or
really,
say how you feel.
Right. It's not really for I guess not really fair for me to decide how you feel about it. And I need to own the fact that I'm the one that said or did whatever to make you feel that way.
Yeah.
And for an actual apology to happen, like, you should feel bad about hurting your significant other, your friends.
Because it impacted them. If it impacted them in a negative way, you should want to repair that. You should want to apologize for that.
And again, it's not about apologizing that you did anything wrong. It's about apologizing that your actions hurt this other person's feelings. I mean, you should feel bad that it... And come up with a plan for next time or whatever, like, what are you going to do different so that I don't have to hurt your feelings?
Yeah. And I think you just kind of learn that along the way. I know certain things, if I bring them up or say them in a certain context, especially when we're in an argument, I know that's going to hurt your feelings. So I avoid those because it's not constructive. Plus, I know it's going to hurt your feelings. So I think it's just things that you kind of learn along the way that you're like, yeah, I know that's going to hurt them, so I'm going to avoid that.
I would venture to guess that you're probably correct, that you do learn it over time. But I also feel, I mean, yes, you're going to learn it over time. I don't know that it always needs to be that subtle, though. I have things that, yes, I have learned over time, and I know that there's certain topics and certain things that I can say. And even to this day, if I say something, I instantly catch myself like, crap, that probably hurt her feelings, right? Mm-hmm. Because we've been together for so long.
Yeah.
But the flip side to that is there are individuals, and I am one of those for the most part, that don't pick up on that, right? That don't pick up on those social cues of like, oh yeah, she got her feelings hurt. It's
easy for me to say because I do pick up on that on pretty much everybody I'm in contact with, you know.
Right. But think of people that you know in your immediate family that have zero idea, or maybe they have an idea, but to them it's just like, well, that's a dumb reason to be mad or upset or whatever.
Yeah.
So they just don't even recognize it or...
Right.
So I do feel like, while yes, it can be something that you develop and pick up over time, it still behooves you to communicate that out.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I have picked up on myself and developed because I'm just that person. Not everybody's that way. You were not that way.
No.
I am. So it's easy for me to say that. Like, oh yeah, I know. Like, I know not to do that because I know it hurts your feelings. But you forget.
Yes, but then I run into situations where, again, I'll say something and then I think to myself, why is she mad?
Yeah.
Obviously, I've said something that upset you or hurt your feelings, right? Yeah. But now I'm thinking, well, what did I say? Did I say how was it said? Yeah, it's like, how did I say it? So now I start overanalyzing anything when it could have just been, when you say this, like, communicating your needs is all I'm saying. Because you're going to have both ends of the spectrum. That's all I'm getting at. As I am not as socially attuned to emotions that way. But in talking through apologies, you also need to understand that there is going to be very different ways people apologize. I mean, the most obvious is saying you're sorry,
Yeah.
right? Using your words.
Right.
My daughter will not say she's sorry. She cannot say those words, but she does have a change in behavior when she feels sorry, and she wants to be, she's a hugger. She wants to be close to you, especially if she knows that she's done something that is. So there,
Or she gets emotional.
Yeah, you're going to need to understand that even when conflicts do arise, and I'm real quick to just say I'm sorry. I don't have a problem, but I do know, like the example in my house is my daughter would rather have her teeth pulled out than say the words I'm sorry,
Yep.
even if she feels terrible.
Yeah. But you know that she's sorry because her behavior changes, or she gets super emotional, she'll cry, or that she's sorry and that she feels bad.
Right.
Even when she doesn't say it.
But there's a lot of examples. There's obviously the two that we gave in this instance, but some people are just going to be really reassurant with you. They're going to reassure you that everything's okay. And then there's going to be people that aren't going to say anything. They're just going to want to be with you and spend time with you. And that is the way it's kind of like love languages, right? Like everybody has their own different level of communication with that means to them, this is how I express that. So on the flip side to that is really understanding that people are going to argue a lot different.
Yeah. There's so many different ways that people have conflict or have arguments, and some are just not productive. They're not. But you get two totally different people together, and sometimes it's really hard.
It is. And it's weird because it's almost like a yin and a yang.
Yeah.
When it comes to argument and when it comes to conflict.
Yeah, I feel like you rarely get the same
you
type of arguer.
There are situations where you're going to have people that are explosive and explosive.
Yeah.
But by and large, I would say you're going to have somebody that is the polar opposite of you in the way that they deal with conflict.
Yeah. And not only deal with it, but receive the communication, receive the apology, receive the emotion of it all.
So in just exploring some of that, a lot of there's some common, they call them common pairings when you're talking conflict styles.
Yeah.
You're going to have people that like to pursue, people like to withdraw. So one person is going to pull away and the other person is going to be like, no, right?
Right.
And then we just talked about it. Like you're going to have the exploder. You're going to have the person that is outright, and then you're going to have the person that shuts down and implodes.
Yes.
And we call them slow burn because they just take everything, right? And then we have our style, which is the fixer and the thinker. I am very much a fixer. You are very much a thinker.
I would add feeler to that. Thinker feeler.
Well, I think a lot of your thinking gets into your feelings, and then And I am very much of the mindset, like, let's figure this out and fix it, because I don't want to feel it. I don't want this to impact anything that we're doing. I just want to resolve it and move forward.
You want to skip over the part where this is how you made me feel, and you'd rather have not that part of it.
Yeah, it's, I'm not an emotional guy. I've talked about that.
But I think we kind of even each other out that way. So I think that with our communication and our conflicts, we're able to easily find a medium ground.
Yeah, I think we've both adapted pretty well to each other's style. And again, it's taken us a long time to learn that difference in approach of how we deal with things.
Yeah.
Especially in conflict.
And I think it just depends on, what your conflict styles are. And that depends on what you're going to need to do or things that you're going to have to adapt in your conflicts. If you have explosive and explosive, you're really going to want to take advantage of those breaks, those moments that you have to take a step back and reconnect for a minute, or start your conflicts, your conversations with 3 things you love about each other, so that you kind of set your tone, because you know that you're explosive and you know that it could go wrong very easily. So And if you're not explosive and you're another type, then there's just different tools that you can adapt into your communication and your conflict style.
I mean, because none of these styles are wrong. It's just the way that you react, like your nervous system reacts.
Yeah, it's just everybody's so different.
Yeah, and in that, and to your point, it's also about understanding what style you are and understanding what style your partner or the person that you're trying to have this conflict with is, so that you can, to your point, develop some tools to reduce how you come at them.
Right.
So that they don't get so defensive.
Right.
And in doing some of that, it's good to identify what does conflict feel like for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because it's different. I think it's different for us. I mean, for me, conflict feels like, makes me anxious. It makes me nervous. It makes me upset. Like we have to address something that's wrong, and that's very stressful for me. And for you, I think maybe, and you can say what it is for you, but I feel like for you, it's more like we just need to jump in, hash it out. It's just got to be a conversation. There's going to be an end result. We just need to figure it out.
I mean, it's a little bit like that. That's a little bit like a puzzle. Like, it's a puzzle for me to figure out, like, what exactly, where did we go wrong here? What is the miscommunication? So it is for me very much like, how am I approaching this to fix whatever is broken? There was a breakdown in communication. There was a breakdown somewhere. I just need to figure out where.
It reminds me of work. Something breaks down and you're like, there's something happened along the way that I got to figure out where the breakdown is.
It is a lot that way.
Your brain.
That is the way my brain works. But it's good to understand that, because that also is what is going to help you feel regulated when you are conflicted, when you are in the middle of this. Like for you, if you already know that it makes you anxious and you identify that and understand that, and you go into it knowing, okay, this is a normal response, it may not minimize it, but it may keep it from going to that other level, right?
Yeah. I think what's helped me, and I think it's just been our communication, but now I know your conflict style. And so I think before we figured out our communication and we're at where we're at now, I think before, when we would have conflict, it felt more, even though, like, I know now that you were just thinking and you're trying to solve this puzzle and you're, looking at it from a different view than me. But before, it always felt like that meant, like, it felt like you were disengaged, like you were, maybe it didn't matter, or you weren't as involved in the conversation, or, you know what I mean? Because you don't bring the emotions to it. You don't bring a lot of, like, the emotional aspect that I do. And I guess I always expected you to, because that's how I am. So I think now when we do have conflict or whatever, I understand that's where your mind is. I know your brain is trying to solve the puzzle that of whatever conflict we have. And so I can now say, like, it's not so stressful and anxious for me, because I know that you're engaged. I know that it matters to you, and you're just trying to figure it out. Not that you don't care.
I mean, we process it.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that's really helped me understand knowing your conflict style and how you approach it versus how I approach it. But it makes me less stressed and less anxious and less nervous about having conflict.
Well, and I think with that, and the thing that's helped me the most is being able to reflect on the fact that I can respect how you deal with it. Because it's real easy for me to just say, oh, well, she's just being emotional, and be dismissive.
Yeah.
But respecting your partner's perspective, and specifically me respecting your feelings and respecting how you are taking in the information and what the information is turning into, needs to be at the foundation of how we continue to repair whatever conflict that is. Because again, it's real easy for, I would say, just in general, I don't want to generalize it. For me, I would say for me, it's really easy for me to just say, oh, well, he, she, whatever, is just being super emotional, and as soon as they're emotional, calm down, it'll be done.
Yeah, because you're not super emotional.
Right.
Like I am.
Right. But
like I would never, I'm totally opposite of that. Somebody's having something going on, or I'm invested in that emotion with them. I'm not like, oh, you're just being too emotional or dramatic. I'm just like, oh no, they're like really going through it, and I'm like feeling that with them. So I think we're pretty opposite on those.
Well, and I think that has also manifested in I mean, that really manifested in the way that I deal with my daughter's anxiety and you deal with your daughter's anxiety, right?
Yes.
Because I come at it from a very unemotional place of, no, that's not what we're doing.
Yes.
Which has its benefits and has its negatives.
Yeah. But so does how I approach it. I mean, because I am so emotionally invested in it that I'm right there in the trenches with her. And so that can help her understand that I understand her, but it also can hinder because I'm not able to help her. I'm not able to get her out of it sometimes because I'm right there in it with her, feeling it.
But and it boils down to respecting the difference of opinion, respecting the perspective, respecting the different style.
Just respecting each other, I think, in general.
Knowing that, and maybe that's something that we need to talk about, is like what
does that respect look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think that gets lost now.
It does. I think it really does. It really gets lost because I think, like we've talked about before in other episodes, is that people just approach it so much like it's me versus you, and I'm getting my point across, and I'm the one that's right, and you need to understand me.
Yeah, so
respect goes out the window.
And I think when we talk conflict, the first thing people envision in their mind is
screaming and yelling.
Right. Which that is not respect. That is the opposite of respecting somebody. And you may or may not agree, but I can tell you, just put yourself in the shoes of somebody that's being yelled at, and how do you feel?
Yeah. I shut down.
And I get aggressive, right?
You get aggressive and I shut down.
And so it's one of those situations where you move away from your natural conflict style and become defensive.
Yes.
So your defensive tactic is to shut down. My defensive tactic is to lash out. Yes.
And that does not work, would not work. We've never had that issue. I mean, because we don't yell at each other, but we haven't experienced that, but I could see 100% how that can happen.
Well, and then, so that's one view of when a lot of people think conflict, that's what they think.
Right? Yeah, they think going at each other and yelling and screaming.
But another subtle one is sarcasm in the middle of an argument or conflict.
Yeah, it's like a jab.
Yeah, so you jab people, and that's just the only intent behind any kind of sarcasm in a situation like this is you're using it as a weapon to hurt the person or make them feel a certain way.
Yeah, and again, you're not being respectful. You're not respecting that person.
Right. And then another big one is threatening the relationship. Mm-hmm. I know that a lot of people, when they get into situations like this, it's a quick, well...
Then I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is also not respectful to your partner in any way whatsoever.
Should never use your marriage, your relationship as a threat.
No. And actually, we went through something not similar, but something where we were both of the mindset that the other one wanted to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we never threatened it. Like, I would never threaten you with divorce, or that's just not even something I would ever do or say. But yeah, in our conflict, both had kind of the understanding, thought we had the understanding of that must be his end game, or that must be my end game, is that this is what they want, right. But again, that's assumptions.
But it's also along with what we're saying is if the outcome really is to work through the conflict, for us, even having that conversation of either one of us feeling that way or thinking the other one is feeling that way, that's a non-negotiable.
Right.
So that should be a non-negotiable in any conflict that you're in. Because that is, I would estimate it to the biggest sign of disrespect of your partner to threaten.
Yeah, it is. It's disrespectful.
And another one, which we talked about a little bit, in terms of if somebody was yelling at you, you would shut down. But shutting down just to not deal with the situation could also be deemed as a little bit disrespectful in a conversation. I understand it if the conversation is hard and somebody is pressing you and they're not willing to take a break, because sometimes you do need a break. But if you're doing it just to...
on purpose.
Yeah. It's a manipulation tactic.
Yeah. That's disrespectful too.
And then any kind of scorekeeping.
Yeah. Like no scorekeeping in any situation. Not just conflict.
Right.
There's no need to take score.
But, and that's to say that respect in a marriage especially is choosing connection over your ego.
Yeah. And choosing respect over needing to be right. I think that's a big one too, because, and they kind of go hand in hand. Like, your ego, part of your ego is not yours, but just in general.
Well, I mean,
Like,
I have not made it shy that I have a huge ego, but
yeah, but part of that ego is like, you have to be right. You know, I have to be right. I have to make my point. So choose that connection and respect your partner over that ego, especially during conflict. I mean, in general, throughout your relationship, you should be doing that, but especially during conflict.
well, conflict is inevitable. Disconnection, though, is optional.
Totally optional. Doesn't have to happen.
No. And working to repair definitely is a skill that you will have to work on. It's not something that you're naturally inherently born with. But we are a living testament to the fact that if you're willing to fight fair
Yeah. And repair.
and stop being opponents and actually become teammates,
Yeah.
you can get to a point where conflict
It's just a conversation.
is just a conversation that is
Yeah.
something you're using to get wherever you're
As
going.
a tool.
Right.
You're using it as a tool, just like you would a conversation and passing by. I feel like that's essentially where we're at. There might be a couple things that we might have to go hot and heavy on topics, but for the most part, it's just I would bring up how I feel or something I have an issue with, just like I would bring up what is the weather going to be today or what are we wearing. I don't feel like at this point in our marriage, it's something that I fear. It's something that I stress having to bring up, or it's just like to a point where I'm feeling that. Okay, well, I'll bring it up and we'll talk about it. If he feels differently, we'll figure it out. Or it's not even it's just like it'll become just a normal, or it can become just a normal everyday conversation.
And that's the goal, is that
Mm-hmm.
it needs to be a conversation.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, she's my partner, she's
Mm-hmm.
my teammate. We are looking to accomplish the same things in life.
Yeah.
We just sometimes come at it from a different perspective.
Yeah. And different perspectives, like we said, are okay.
Yeah, yeah.
You
And
just
sometimes-
have to hash them out.
And sometimes her perspective, once we do have some conflict, makes more sense. And it's like, oh yeah, well, why don't we do it that way?
Yeah.
Right. So
And sometimes yours does. I mean, but that's the beauty of the communication. You figure it out and see what works the best and go about your day.
So with that, we would like to invite all of you to just think a little bit about this topic. Conflict, again, is inevitable. We encourage everyone to reflect on their conflict styles and give some of the insight and repair tools that we offered here a try. Looking at reframing how you approach it, looking at what you are feeling going into it. All of those are great tools to just have a different baseline and a different just perspective on conflict when you go into it. So we wish you all a blessed week. Please continue sharing your light with others, and we will catch you on the next one.